you seen environmental sustainability develop over the last 5 years? What have been the key driving factors?
Driving factors, probably threefold. One is people's overall awareness around sustainability and environmental impacts. Two would be the economy, the sort of austerity measures and the costs of environmental sources of energy. And then three is actually from probably big companies down. It's that trickle down effect. So big companies now sort of driving this agenda from either public sector and big private sector companies.
The hot button issue at the moment is Scope 3.
Yeah.
I guess what I want to ask is, do your procurement guys know this vocabulary, Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3?
Yeah.
How do you instill it in them, and where is the sort of state of affairs at Mitie?
Okay, well, there are a few sustainability managers that always drive this agenda. We started a journey probably 3 years ago raising awareness around Scope 3, which isn't just about carbon in your supply chain, because it's other Scope 3 elements on our own travel and so forth.
Sure.
But from 3 years ago to now, it is probably trying to build it into the DNA and the culture of the procurement and the category managers.
So they don't see it as a chore anymore. They feel that there is a benefit to their particular role, or is there still kind of like...
If I'm honest, they probably... Some might see it as a chore, others don't. Some people get quite excited about this stuff, others won't, you know. So unfortunately, procurement always comes down to how much can you save at the end of the day. But what we've done is we've built this into people's objectives around raising awareness within the supply base, get the right data and information to provide back to the business.
From a supplier perspective, what are suppliers asked to do in terms of responding to questionnaires? Can you give us a picture from their perspective? Have they got 10 or 15 different platforms that they do, or more than that you're involved with?
Probably more. I mean, as Mitie, we would probably respond to a lot of clients. I was saying earlier.
Sure, you're a supplier.
So over 50 platforms we've registered on and provided responses to. A lot of this is, well, so going back specifically to the questions, they'll be asked for, across different platforms, the same questions. Pre-qual questionnaires, pretty much saying health and safety accreditation, are you commercially healthy, what kind of services you provide, all that stuff is pretty generic.
Yeah.
There's nothing commercially sensitive in that. There should be a common sort of set of, there you go. It's almost some of the accreditations these days, if someone's got IOSH or something, checking the box. If they don't, they get asked a bunch more questions.
Sure.
So there's generic standards that are already out there, and suppliers are getting asked them left, right and centre.
So if someone was saying, if a supplier was going down the S3 route, would there potentially be an extra gold star for them from a procurement perspective? Because does that not mean that they've addressed a certain amount of risk in their supply chain, so therefore they're relatively more attractive
for me, and I think for our procurement team, and even for my team, that differentiates them.
What is your view on where the sustainability Q&A should go next from a supply perspective? From a procurement professional, what should we be doing to make your life easier?
A lot of this gets driven by public sector, and I've talked to some smart either procurement person in public sector or consultant in public sector who's decided 10% of evaluations on sustainability. One of the questions they'll ask is, what do you know about your Scope 3? Yeah, and once that's actually done for us, that's probably been one of the triggers to say, 1 minute, we better get our head around this, and that started happening within the last 5 years. And then we started to understand, right, here's our data, go give it to someone, understand it. But then again, the so what? So then how do you take it along that journey? And then I have a personal beef around, I'm quite conscious we've got a platform, and the company who provides our platform for onboarding and registration, they've got 50 other companies in the FTSE 250, so we could have the same suppliers registering on the same platform. The data's sitting on the same server somewhere, I'm sure. I've always got a little saying, having information is power, but sharing it is more powerful. And we should just have some form of common platform, because it's a common, I go back to, there's a common interest across client and supply base to get all these things onto a single platform.
It's a very, very cliche question, but can you map out in your mind how the sustainable agenda will develop over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think the scope 1, 2, 3 will be a driver, because we've talked about there's a constant commercial theme there, which will not go away. But there's also increased awareness and then development of that. So that will help drive it. And I think tailing off the back of that, you will get other strands coming into play. So it could be wider sort of corporate responsibility questions and more awareness around that. convergence of platforms and sharing of the information, more collaborative working in sectors, or maybe could be driven by the public sector in its entirety, more awareness around, we've talked about these things like diversity strands and how that gets broken down, and just as data proliferates over time, where we understand the volume of data out there and that's phenomenal, it's only going to naturally, we're going to have more awareness of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And my view is ideally it starts to converge onto primary platforms. It's probably the best way to look at it.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.